listen, I want to keep this conversation going. I'm sure, it's probably a little bit of synergy in this conversation because we're talking about the LA teacher strike, and one of the issues on the table for them is the issue of stagnant wages. Jerry Jordan is the president of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers, and I'm sure he's been in contact with his colleagues on the West Coast. A lot of similarity in the issues facing those two. Good morning, Jerry. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, man, we're doing all right. So, hey, Jerry, what are the, for a lot of folk who are trying to figure out what's going on, sometimes it's hard to actually boil the demands down. What is it that's led LA teachers to walk out of their classroom, something that I know teachers would only do if they felt they had no other choice? What are the big issues?
Well, they've been, as you know, in negotiations for the past 22 months and haven't been able to reach an agreement. The big issues for the teachers in Los Angeles is certainly wages are an issue, but I want to show you how little emphasis they're putting on that. The union has proposed a 6.5% increase over the life of the contract. The school district has proposed a 6% increase. 6.5% over 3 years, that's just a little over 2% per year. So that's under the inflation rate. So, but what is most important to the educators is that many programs and services to children in that school district have really, really been eliminated. They do not have nurses, full-time nurses in every school. They do not have full-time counselors in every school. They have lost many of the programs dealing with the arts that children certainly do well with. But they also are fighting for class sizes. In the high schools, the class size is 45 students for one teacher. I mean, that's absolutely impossible.
How many? Wait, whoa. How many students per teacher?
45.
45.
And in some cases, there aren't enough desks. I was listening to a news report on this strike yesterday, and in some cases, there's not enough desks for all the kids to sit at.
Whoa, 45. So, I teach in a seminary, and I complain, when I've had a class with 15 or 16 master's students, I'm thinking good Lord, this is a lot of students. 45 kids?
Yes, how do you give the children the attention that they deserve? I mean, if you're teaching English, you've got to do a lot of grading of papers. Children do a lot of writing, social studies, and it's just impossible. So those are the issues that are on the table that the union has raised in negotiations that the district is ignoring. That district is a district made up primarily of black and brown children. And the money that is not being spent on education by the state of California, and specifically in the city of Los Angeles, that's the issue. What kind of educational program are we going to provide kids? And the teachers have taken a real firm stand on that. These are programs for kids. They're not fighting for money because, as I said, a little over 2%, if they are able to get that per year as an increase, that's not much money.
And what fascinates me about places like California, New Jersey, places where, as taxpayers, you get these tax bills that, make you go, bleh, because they're so expensive.
Right.
Where is this money going if it's not going to schools? I mean, I've never understood, why places like that have the money coming in. In fact, when Jerry Brown left the governorship of California, he bragged about a surplus.
Yes, he did. I read that.
So what, are your contacts out there, telling you, what the deal is with that? Because it doesn't make sense.
Well, there are so many issues. I mean, they, too, face an enormous amount of charter schools in the city of Los Angeles that take away a large portion of the school's budget. And, and they're asking for a moratorium on additional charter schools in order to allow whatever monies come into the district to be put into the public school system for many of the programs that I just discussed.
Oh, wow. This is so a part of what they're asking for is as well, in addition to smaller class sizes, it looks like they're also trying to deal with the standardized testing and asking for a reduction. What's that about?
It's really a demand that teachers all over the country, including right here in Philadelphia, want. There's been too much testing since the passage of No Child Left Behind, which is no longer law, but there is a replacement ESSA, but that teachers are teaching every day, and they are under pressure, and the children are under pressure because we're going to have our standardized tests that we have to take, and we have to do well. If we don't do well, then there are sanctions.
Mm-hmm.
And under the law, there were sanctions that if a school did not do well, it didn't matter what the other conditions were that the children and their families had to deal with every day. You have to do well on the test. But you ignored the fact that some children didn't have enough food at home. Some children were homeless. Some children had medical issues that weren't dealt with and needed attention. And again, I'm talking about schools where you don't have a full-time nurse, you don't have a librarian. There are other kinds of supports. And so all of this, comes to a head, and, the testing results show across this country that you have to take poverty into consideration, because a child living in a poor neighborhood is not going to test as well as a child living in a more affluent environment. But the state tests all of the children in every grade the same way. So it's unfair, and kids don't need that much testing, and as a result of all the testing and the focus on it, that's when programs such as those in the arts, those non-mandated courses are eliminated from children and from the schools. So kids spend most of their day working on reading and arithmetic, and some children aren't as good as others on those two subjects, but they are remarkably brilliant when it comes to the arts.
Wow. So who are they negotiating with? Who's on the other side of the table? Is it a school board? Is it the mayor? Who is the authority that can make this impasse come to an end?
It is my understanding that it's the CEO of the Los Angeles School District, who is a newly appointed individual hired by the school board in Los Angeles.
Interesting.
Well, how long are the teachers? What are you hearing about? The teachers, and how long this, how long this strike might last? Does California have laws similar to Pennsylvania where you have to have 280 days of schooling in? So most of our strikes maybe last a week.
I don't know what the laws are in California, but I do know that from talking to people in California that they did not call a strike lightly, and they did not want to go on strike.
Yeah,
they don't want to settle under the same conditions that currently exist.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. So just kind of as a teacher, Jerry, before you were, repping the union, again, you were, a teacher first and a teacher at heart. Can you just talk about the decision? How difficult is that to vote for walking out? Because it's got to feel like you're walking out on your kids, but at the same time, you're walking out for your kids, you believe.
That's exactly right. And it is a very difficult decision. But, as I said, if you know that, teaching a class of 45 children each day means that you're not giving the children the kind of attention that they need. And, that it appears that management doesn't seem to care, and they prioritize their spending in a way that counts for having 45 children in the classroom instead of saying, oh, we need to lower the class size to 25, and I'm making a big jump there because that is, drop of 20 children per classroom is a very, very expensive thing to do. But that there is an effort to reduce the class sizes. You just take a stand at one point. This is a fight for public education in this country. And that's one of the things that I think all of us in education are looking at across the country regarding what's going on in Los Angeles, because all of us, particularly in large urban centers, have experienced many of the same things that the Los Angeles Teachers Union is fighting. And, we all believe that things need to be better. I mean, here in Philadelphia, we have a school district that celebrated the reopening of a library at Bache Martin Elementary School this week. That is wonderful. But we are a school district that prior to that library reopening, we have 7 librarians in schools in this entire city. 7.
For the entire city?
Yes.
7.
So basically, you had a whole bunch of kids who needed to do research projects, and there was no one in the library to help them.
That's correct.
In Philadelphia in 2019, it's only 7?
Yes.
And the thing is, you mentioned like teaching to the test and No Child Left Behind and stuff, and how that makes it hard for teachers to do their jobs. It also tends to reflect with the students themselves, because I've been, grading college essays, and you can tell that there's not much of an emphasis on writing in teaching English anymore, because that's not necessarily on the test.
That's correct.
Wow. I mean, this is unbelievable. I remember, so our kids started in Philly schools 10 years ago now. And it seems like back then, every school had a librarian, right? Or just about.
No, they did not. In that, it goes back a number of years. A librarian was required under the school code in every secondary school.
Okay.
And that law was changed in Harrisburg back in, I would say, the late 80s and or early 90s at the very latest. And when that law was eliminated, then it was no longer a mandated position to be in a school, and the district began to eliminate the librarians.
Wow, that is crazy.
It's a very similar situation as we had here in Philadelphia a few years ago when the district eliminated 50% of the nurses because of budgetary problems, and we had schools where there was no full-time nurse, and unfortunately lost a student in elementary school to an asthma attack that a nurse would have identified immediately had he or she been there.
Yeah.
And the lack of counselors. So it's very similar, and that's why I said in urban districts all the union leaders are looking at what's going on there, and we all can tell our own stories.
Wow.
So as a sign of solidarity with the Los Angeles Teachers Union, across the country, AFT and NEA teachers wore red on Monday to support them on the first day of their strike.
Well, that's awesome, Jerry. And listen, we want to thank you for taking time to call in and share. And for the record, I'm just thinking 45 students in a class. That's like 3 classes.
You can't teach like that.
You
Not if you're
cannot.
teaching something like English or a foreign language or even math. You can't teach like that.
And your children can't
You're
learn
right.
like that.
And that's why the teachers are on strike.
Yep. All right.
It's not about money for them.
Well, more power to them, and I hope they get what they want, because if so, the students in Los Angeles will be better off for it. Thank you, Jerry Jordan.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Wow.
Take care.
Jerry Jordan, head of the Philadelphia's Federation of Teachers, PFT, wearing red in solidarity with teachers in California. I was looking at this. An old study by the Brookings Institute was suggesting that the average class size should be like 18 through grades 3,
Right.
22 for grades 4 through 8, 25 through 9 and 12. In LA, it's 45.
And teachers try to get those class sizes contracted as part of contract negotiations. And I would think that a school board that wants to ensure that its kids get the best education possible wouldn't fight them on that. And yet that universally they do.
Yep. Well, that's all we got for today. Thanks to Jerry and to Manny and to all of you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Leslie. We'll holler at you tomorrow, Lord willing. The creek don't rise. We're out.
Have a good day, everybody.